Welcome to Watercolor Techniques with drawing and painting. So in case you missed one or more classes, I'm going to catch you up to speed on all of these techniques. So let's begin. Our top square is going to be for even wash. We're going to start with a clean brush and clean water, and we're going to paint a light layer of water across the entire surface of the square. This is going to help my paint dry more evenly when I apply color. Because we all know when we're sitting with our friends in class, we can get distracted and we might pause and chit chat for a while. And then when we resume painting, we'll have some dry spots and we'll see dry edges. We don't want that. We want an even color. So you'll notice that paint just went everywhere. The water is helping to distribute the paint across the whole square. That's a good thing. I'm picking green. You can pick any color that makes you happy, but our goal is to have one smooth, even layer of color throughout the entire space. There we go. And it'll dry a little more evenly as we let it sit. Now, if you had a big puddle of color on the edge of your paper, you can rinse your brush, dry it off on your paper towel, and use your brush like a little vacuum cleaner to suck up those little puddles that might be pooling around the edge. That's a little easier than the paper towel, and it'll pull up less paint. All right, rubber cement is in your top right-hand corner. I took the rubber cement from your kit, and I put a little bit on there, and I let it dry overnight. So if you missed that day, you're going to put rubber cement on your square, any design you like. It's going to come out a little like snot, and you're going to let it sit overnight to dry before you add paint on top of it. I've already done this. So again, I'm going to pick a fun color, and I'm going to paint on top of the rubber cement. The rubber cement is going to mask the paper from accepting the paint. You can see I painted a big blob. Now when this paint is dry, I can use my finger to rub the glue off, or I can use a rubber cement eraser, and it will pull off the surface. This technique is especially useful when you're trying to mask out areas of your drawing that you want to keep nice edges. So if you have a shape, something that has an organic edge, and you want to keep it clean, you can put down rubber cement. All right, next one, first one of the second column is gradual wash. Gradual wash means we want to gradually fade from white to a color of our choice. So we're going to start with water, because the water will help move the paint. This technique is great if you want to do a sunset, anything where you want it to fade from one color into another. So with that thought, I'm going to start with some red. Make it go from red to pink. So I've loaded up my brush with color. Ooh, pretty. And I'm not going to re-dip my brush in the paint. I'm just going to keep pulling it up. So keep doing easy strokes up towards the top. So you can see the color fading lighter and lighter. Great. Here we go. So it's going from red to pink. Now if yours doesn't fade enough, you can rinse your brush, dry it off, and pull a little color off towards the top. That'll help lighten it up a little bit. We're just trying to get it from white to a color of your choice. Okay, our next one is salt. You might remember this from Art Fundamentals. I'm gonna start with a really pretty blue. I'm gonna put some paint down. If you are a slow painter, you may want to start with water. I'm painting pretty quickly. So I'm going to put down this beautiful blue. And you have to get it just the right amount of wet. So if I kind of tilt my head to the side, it has a little sheen from the water. So there's no big puddles, but it's just wet. I'm going to take my salt shaker and I'm going to give it a little sprinkle. You're not going to see very much going on right now, but in about 5 minutes, that salt is going to push the pigment away from its little grains, and it's going to look like frost on your windshield. So again, once we've put the salt down, Don't touch it. We don't want salt in the bristles of your paintbrush. All right, moving in. This one is wet on wet. Wet on wet, we're forcing two colors to intentionally bleed. This is another one where you want to start with water. My water's starting to turn colors. So start with water. Okay, and then I can pick two or more colors that I want to do some stripes or even a cool tie-dye. Two colors that'll look good if they touch each other. Let's do red and purple. I'm just going to do stripes, but you can do any pattern you like. So we can see that red spread out really quickly. And now I'm going to grab a little purple, do a couple more stripes. So you can see the paint spreading out. We're having intentional bleeding between two colors. This looks wonderful when you're painting sunsets or tie-dye, anything where you want two colors to blend together. Now it can be a little unpredictable what's going to happen, and you might end up with a big puddle on your paper. So if you have a really big puddle and you don't like that, just take a little bit of your paper towel and you can pull a little bit of it off. But again, we are having intentional bleeding. All right, moving down, this is the first technique of your third row is alcohol. And we're talking about rubbing alcohol that's typically used for first aid. So this technique is gonna have a similar effect to the salt. So start with the color of your choice. You know what? I'm gonna pick brown. So color of your choice. I'll make a nice dark brown. Ooh, pretty. Well, I think it's pretty. Okay, so nice dark color. And again, you don't want it too wet or not very much happens. So you just want to be able to tilt your head and just a little bit of a shine. Okay, so while your piece is damp, I'm going to take the funny brush. It's a little rough. It's got real stiff bristles. And the rubbing alcohol. You can take your finger and you're going to flick. So I'm going to get my hand really close to my paper so none of my other techniques get wet. Give it a little flick. The technique is going to cause an interesting effect on the paper. If your paper's too wet, you might want to wait a minute before you do this. You just want it to be damp, and you'll see a pattern. It almost looks like stars in the sky. It's very cool. Then once you've put the alcohol down, don't touch it again. Just leave it alone. All right, our next one is masking. I'm going to take pieces of masking tape, and you can buff the tape, so sticky and unsticky them against your sweater or your jumper. You can make a little pattern. I'm just going to make an X, and it's going to mask the surface from taking any paint. And again, you pick what colors. I'm going to do some yellows. You just paint. Ooh, my brush was not clean. That's okay. It'll be a nice deep yellow. Now I can pull the tape off now, but I will get my fingers dirty, or I can wait till tomorrow when this is dry and peel the tape off, and I'll have a white X where that tape masked the paper. All right, coming over to plastic wrap. There's a couple different ways you can do this. It is going to start with an even wash technique. I'm gonna make a beautiful blue-green. Blue-green, that's pretty. And you should have a little piece of plastic wrap, and you can scrunch the plastic wrap up in your hand and kind of dab at the surface, or I like this one even better. Take the plastic wrap, a little crunch. You're gonna lay it down and just lay it flat. You want it kind of crinkly. Lay it flat on the surface. Once this paint is dry and I peel off the plastic wrap, it'll maintain this pattern, which looks really cool. It's one of my favorite techniques. All right, moving down to wax resist. You're going to need a wax crayon. I have white crayons in each kit, and you're going to want to push very hard. Push hard for your design. Now, some colors are more successful than others when it comes to wax resist. I've always had the best luck with pure black paint. So when I paint over, the crayon is going to resist the watercolors. My secret message will come through. I've given you guys a smiley face. There you go. All right, paper towel. In this technique, we're gonna take a color of your choice, maybe a nice red, orange. I haven't done one of those yet. Put down another even wash. You'll be tired of even wash by the end of this. Put down an even wash. Add a little more color here. There we go. And you're gonna take a clean paper towel, crunch it up in your hand, dab at the surface. Again, this is gonna create a subtle texture. This comes in handy when you're trying to create a texture for bushes, grass, leaves, anything that needs a little texture. It's gonna work great. All right, our last technique involves watercolor pencils. Watercolor pencils, we'll say specifically watercolor pencils on the box. Not every pencil can do this. And you can draw and color with them like you would a regular colored pencil. And when I add water with my paintbrush, it's going to turn into paint. Now some of you might think, well, why don't I just do my entire project in that? And then I can add water. Well, then you have to draw it and paint it, so it's twice the work and it's going to take twice as long. But this is great for little details or if you can't quite get the right color. See how when I add the water, it almost dissolves the pencil and turns into paint. And now my brush is loaded up with green paint so I can keep painting with it a little bit. Okay, we're gonna come back towards the top. In your even wash area, we're gonna do a few more things. One of them is called lifting. Lifting is how to erase watercolor. I'm gonna take my clean brush, clean water. I'm gonna start applying water with my clean brush. I can even scrub a little bit with my paintbrush. We're not gonna be too aggressive. Then take a clean paper towel and dab the surface. Don't scrub with the paper towel, you'll start tearing up your paper. It's gonna lift color away. This is gonna be a super handy technique for you whenever you mess up and you need to fix some things. All right, our last technique is glazing. And glazing is when you add one color on top of another. And with watercolors, they're transparent. So if I paint blue over top of this green, you're not gonna see a blue stripe, you'll see a blue-green stripe. So we've made a new color, kind of like plaid. Or if you've ever dyed Easter eggs and you layer different colors, get a similar effect. All right, now mine's not quite dry, but when it's ready, close enough, I can take my finger or my rubber cement eraser and start taking away some of the rubber cement. You know what? Mine's a little too damp, so I'm gonna let that sit. You're masking when you're ready. You can gently peel away your tape. You'll reveal the white paper underneath. And your plastic wrap you can peel away. And look, it maintains that pattern from the plastic wrap. There we go. So from the top, we have even wash with a lift and a glaze. Oh, I'm dripping. Rubber cement, gradual wash, salt. You'll see my salt technique really started to kick in. Wet on wet. I wanted colors to intentionally bleed. My alcohol has a subtle pattern. Masking, I masked the surface. Plastic wrap left a pattern. Wax resist masked the surface. Paper towel gave a really light, subtle texture. And watercolor pencils, another way to paint with watercolors. So I wish you the best success, and I can't wait to see your technique page.